I've got an amazing panel today. Let's start with something which is very basic.
Yeah, basically, I'm in a favor of getting the recipes out of the closet. I'm myself out of the closet, so why should I keep my recipes out of the closet?
That's
So
just
a lot of royal secrets were, just kept within the four walls, and that's the reason why I believe is that these secrets, the recipes should be out, because otherwise, I mean, they get diluted as the generation goes by.
We are from the northeast, and the food, as in the culture as well as our tradition, is slightly different from what you get in mainland India. And our food is mostly, it starts with rice. So rice is consumed for lunch, breakfast, tea, dinner, any occasion.
How do you eat rice for tea?
We eat rice for tea. In fact, I actually have my lunch by 10 o'clock, because we wake up, sun rises very early in the east, and it's a normal practice. Royalty is no different from the people who are there. In fact, the word royal is very alien to us, because we are more of an animistic society. And give us some rice, and there's a village called Maichang in Tripura, which means it's called the cold rice, because any traveler who went there would get cold rice to eat, because rice is grown abundantly in the east. Pork, meat is again a very essential part of our food and diet. We see some people, I believe somebody is there from Bangladesh, and I believe somebody is there from Bhutan. They will probably understand that meat, livestock is a huge part of our diet. We are not so much into spices. Our tastes are very distinct. It's probably similar to what you would get in Cambodia, probably what you'll get in Myanmar. You'll probably get it very similar in parts of southern China, part of Bhutan. So our food is similar to that.
So I want to talk about something that is of actually core interest to me. Now, there is a lot of modern Indian food which is embracing traditional recipes. How far do you see that helping this documenting what the recipes from your family, from your state? How far do you see that happening?
Just, what you mentioned, that how a modern food is now looking backwards.
Yes.
It's also like a revival.
Yeah.
They are doing this all over the world. I was reading about how Heston Blumenthal, who's one of the greatest chefs in the world, and he's created a storm with molecular gastronomy, is now actually, there is this whole team that he has which only researches and is getting together old recipes and menus from famous dinners in history, from famous families of history. He's putting it together, and then how they are trying to experiment and use these heritage recipes. In fact, something which Heston does, which is molecular gastronomy, where the whole concept is that what you're eating, you don't know what you're eating, it's deception. This used to be part of a lot of state dinners back in the day. Right. For example, Awadh, the Nawabs of Awadh were famous for, they liked the fact, they liked to tease their guests and their diners.
So when you were writing the book, when you were documenting, what kind of trouble did you face to document?
Till date, I don't know whether I was given the absolutely accurate recipes or not. I don't.
You tasted it in our home, so try them at home.
I know. But yeah, one was measurements, because a lot of the old cooks, they do a lot of cooking by andaz.
I think these are also quirks, and I think the chefs or the cooks, I call them family members.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I mean, even when I was trying to get the last cook give me the recipe of this famous Rajpipla chicken, which His Highness talked about, Rajpipla Murg. I mean, I never knew it was famous in Tripura also. So this old man, he was so rickety and, walking with a stick, and the last of the cooks, which was trained by my great-grandfather, and I had a hell of a time to kind of convince him. First of all, he was not willing to give it to me. I said, if you die, then it's gone, it's not going to go in anyone's hand. So, I mean, I had to really pamper him and, make him sit down and give it to me. And then, as Neha correctly said, these people are all basis of andaz, They will not give measurements at this much teaspoon and this much pinch, and like they would be very haphazard in that. So it was really very difficult to get hold of the recipe. Finally, we managed to get it somehow, and in fact, I got it with me here. That's why I'm holding on to this piece of paper. So it's here if anyone wants the Rajpipla recipe
Absolutely.
chicken, and it's already out of the closet. It's in my hand.
Or maybe we should take you into the
Yeah,
kitchen
you-
and make you make it. What about you, Princess? Is there something you'd like to share?
Well, we had this old cook from my grandfather's time, Maharaj Jivaji Rao Sindhya of Gwalior. From his time, he was a mug cook, John, and he knew all the recipes, and he never gave them out to anyone. You know. In the
That's
kitchen,
lovely.
you know.
Was that a mug cook, you said?
A mug cook.
Mug cook from?
He was settled in Goa, but they originally are from Burma.
Yes.
You know why? Because all our cooks are mugs.
That's true.
And
Exactly, you know.
mug cooks are
Yeah.
from our community.
Exactly.
They're from Tripura. And mug cooks are trained to be chefs.
And they have it in their hands. You know, you have your.
In
you
fact,
have your
they're from
Nepalese guys.
they're from our same community as we are. We speak the same language of the Mugs. In fact, there are more Mugs in Tripura than in Burma.
I'd like to add one thing,
Yes.
taking off from what Chitra said. While documenting or doing this book in particular, I do think that one of the reasons all the states that we chose, I mean, the cooks and the backroom staff is a very important part of the whole process, but it is the heads of the family, it's the women of the house, or in the case of Patiala, it's the men of the house. They all cook. They all are excellent hostesses and hosts, not because they keep a great table and serve good food, but because, like Chitra said, she knows what's being made, what should go in what. There's a active interest in the kitchen. Until that is not there, you know, you can have all the recipes in the world tucked away as a part of your heritage. If you are not active in the kitchen, if you are not involved, it will never be the same.
Right.
So I think a very important part of preserving that culinary heritage is the members of the family being involved in it.
Right, that's a very, very interesting aspect. I also have one question. Now, you've got to have documented some things. If you're referring to a cookbook that is your Bible, you have got to have something that to start with when you learn. It's in my head. It may not even be a valid question, but do you think that these secrets were all shared only in royal households? Were they passed around? Like if somebody went to visit, were they passed around from cook to cook? Did that ever happen?
Yes, that did happen because the chicken Rajpipla was there on our table also. So obviously, I mean, we have visited each other's home, grandfathers or grandparents, and so that is very much
So
part
does
of it.
that help with preserving? Does it help with tradition? Does it get diluted?
Actually, I don't think it's a
Not really. It's
dilution.
not a
I think
dilution.
it's evolving.
Okay.
You know, because earlier, even I don't know now if it's that pronounced, but all these the royal states, the royal families would get together. Like in the summer, people would come to Kashmir for polo. They would go for shikar to a certain part of the world because that was the norm then. That was the lifestyle.
No, even now, Neha, like I would
Yes.
say now, when we all meet friends, all of us get together, go up to the hills for a holiday. I mean, it's so normal to have a cookout. You know, you have
Yeah.
one person who's the cook or the chef. You know, he's got the hand, and he's the friend who's cooking. Everyone's having their glass of wine or chatting. You know,
Yeah.
and the cooking is happening. That's part of the party. It's not happening in the kitchen.
Kitchen, yeah.
So
it
that's
is.
how, I mean, recipes are exchanged. You know, in the olden days, I mean, they were done in palaces with your friends visiting and all. Now it is done anywhere and everywhere. You know, it's just nice if you know a recipe, even if you're visiting somewhere abroad, you're taking an Indian recipe out.
Today, there's a tagline, a lot can happen over coffee.
Yeah.
I think a lot can happen over food and alcohol,
Always.
right? And traditional alcohol. I mean, that's the next thing she should document.
Toddy. Let's drink toddy now.
Toddy, we call it chuak. I'm sure in Chang is in Sikkim, Zoo is in Mizoram. So I mean, we have. But then
Arak and Ladakh.
Arak, yeah.
Mahua.
So you know, I think these are ways of forging alliances. State dinners were also a way, apart from marriages, to have forging political alliances, social alliances. And I think we were far more amiable to each other and not at constant war, because we respected and understood each other's food, language, religion. And I think that was food played a huge role, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've got, I have a very old film, 1930s, I think, where my great grandfather, he's wearing khaki pants, and he's cooking. And there is His Highness Jaipur, Man Singh ji is there, and a lot of other, he had a house in Mussoorie, so they're all there, and they're, so I'm sure it must have got passed on, something like that. We know people like visiting, and they would obviously get the authentic recipe, and and of course through matrimonial alliances also, I'm sure it gets passed on from, like my mother is from Jaisalmer, and all the Rajasthan, the Jaisalmer cuisine has now come to Rajpipla, so it's all kind of...
the Nepalese women are very forceful with the cuisine.
I was going to say that.
Very forceful.
Well, this has been so interesting, and actually it's been a big learning session for me. Thank you so much for joining in. This has been quite fabulous. Can we please get a big round of applause?